There is a strange contradiction in human life. The people who appear the weakest in their youth often carry the greatest strength in maturity. And nowhere is this more true than in the INTP. For years, they seem invisible, wandering, doubting, detached from the world's games. And yet, after a certain age, something shifts. The same quiet soul the world underestimated begins to move in ways that cannot be ignored. Why does this happen? Why does the INTP, so often overlooked, become unstoppable after 30? The answer begins with a hidden truth about time. Time does not give everyone the same gift. For some, youth is their peak, and age only steals from them. But for the INTP, youth is not the summit, it is the preparation. Their early years are not meant to dazzle but to deepen. And that depth, invisible in their 20s, becomes a weapon in their 30s. Most people chase the world, the INTP studies it. And the one who studies the game eventually plays it better than the one who only runs inside it. In their youth, the INTP is restless. They see flaws in systems others accept without question. They hear silence between words. They sense the weight behind actions. And this awareness, so natural to them, often feels like a curse. It isolates them. Friends misunderstand them. Teachers mislabel them. Employers dismiss them. Even family may call them too much in their head. And so the INTP grows up doubting themselves, haunted by the feeling that they are out of sync with the rest of humanity. But here lies the paradox. That very dissonance, the pain of not fitting in, becomes the fire that forges their independence. Because while others are busy adapting to the crowd, the INTP is forced to build strength from within. They may not realize it yet, but this quiet suffering is shaping a foundation no storm can break. Modern psychology calls this postformal thought, a stage of reasoning that develops not in childhood but in adulthood. Research from the Journal of Adult Development shows that many people do not reach their most complex, nuanced way of thinking until their 30s or 40s. And INTPs, wired for abstraction, are uniquely positioned to bloom at this stage. Their 20s are filled with questions. Their 30s are when those questions begin to crystallize into answers. Notice the difference. At 20, the INTP questions everything and trusts nothing. At 30, they still question everything, but they have lived long enough to see patterns. And once they see patterns, they are no longer lost. They are navigators. They can cut through noise, pierce through deception, and predict outcomes before they unfold. That is why they suddenly appear unstoppable, not because they have changed, but because time has finally caught up to their way of seeing. This change is also emotional. The younger INTP feels every failure deeply. They may overanalyze mistakes until they feel paralyzed. But failure, when repeated, becomes medicine. By their 30s, the INTP has failed enough to realize that failure is not fatal. What once crushed them now strengthens them. Their fear of rejection dissolves. Their fear of being misunderstood shrinks. And the one who no longer fears being misunderstood becomes impossible to silence. Think of it this way, most people build their identity in their 20s by imitation. They copy careers, lifestyles, and beliefs from those around them. But the INTP cannot imitate convincingly. Their mind refuses to settle. So instead of copying, they wrestle. They wrestle with truth, with lies, with themselves. And though it costs them peace in their 20s, it grants them authenticity in their 30s. The moment they stop apologizing for who they are is the moment they begin to create a life others cannot copy. This is why history favors the late bloomers. Einstein was dismissed as a poor student. Darwin doubted himself for decades. Kierkegaard wrote in obscurity. But time revealed what youth could not. Each of them was an INTP spirit, unpolished in youth, unstoppable in maturity. The same pattern unfolds today. The INTP after 30 is not different from the INTP before 30, they are simply finished cooking. Curiosity grows stronger here. What exactly makes them unstoppable? Three forces emerge at this age: clarity, detachment, and creation. Clarity, because by 30 they have consumed enough knowledge to see through illusions. They recognize that success is not about speed but direction. They know that most people burn out not because they lack effort, but because they chase empty goals. The INTP refuses to waste energy this way. Every action they take carries the precision of a philosopher's blade. Detachment, because by 30 they realize they can survive alone. The fear of solitude that haunted their 20s dissolves. They no longer need validation. And freedom from validation is the rarest form of power. Imagine a person who cannot be bribed by status, seduced by trends, or chained by shame. That person moves like water, untouchable. And creation, because the INTP at this stage finally begins to manifest the ideas that once only lived in their mind. Their 20s were full of sketches and unfinished projects. But by 30, they possess both the patience and the persistence to finish. And when an INTP finishes, the world notices. Because their work is never shallow. It is layered, thoughtful, and timeless. There is also the matter of relationships. In youth, the INTP often feels clumsy in love, distant in groups, misunderstood by peers. But by maturity, they learn the value of depth over quantity. They cut away the noise and hold on to the few who truly understand them. This creates relationships that are rare in today's disposable world: loyal, honest, enduring. The same trait that once made them seem too selective, now makes them profoundly trustworthy. And consider the workplace. In their 20s, INTPs are often dismissed as daydreamers or overthinkers. But by their 30s, those same traits make them visionaries. Research from Gallup shows that people who lean toward abstract thinking and problem-solving often rise in leadership after years of being overlooked. Why? Because organizations eventually hit problems that simple thinking cannot solve. And that is when the INTP, with decades of quiet observation, steps forward and provides solutions others never considered. But the most profound shift is not external, it is internal. The INTP after 30 begins to understand their own nature. And self-understanding is the beginning of mastery. Before, they felt cursed for being different. Now, they realize difference was their destiny. Before, they envied the confidence of others. Now, they see that confidence without depth is fragile. Their calm becomes their armor. Their curiosity becomes their compass. Their patience becomes their engine. What makes them unstoppable is not that they outcompete others. It is that they stop competing altogether. They withdraw from the meaningless race and start building their own path. And the one who builds their own path cannot be overtaken, because no one else knows where that path leads. Pause and notice how rare this is. Most people spend life reacting. They are pushed by fear, pulled by desire, distracted by noise. But the INTP after 30 moves with intention. They act only when it matters. They speak only when it counts. They choose not by impulse but by clarity. And when clarity guides action, the results appear almost supernatural. This is the real reason they become unstoppable. Not because they suddenly gain power, but because they finally shed illusions. They realize that life is not a stage where they must perform, it is a canvas they are meant to paint. And the one who paints does not ask the audience for permission. They simply create. So, if the INTP feels lost in their 20s, let them know this: the storm is not a sign of weakness. It is preparation. The silence is not emptiness, it is incubation. And the loneliness is not punishment, it is training for independence. Every doubt, every hesitation, every sleepless night of overthinking is the soil in which their unstoppable strength is growing. And when that strength finally blooms, after 30, the world will wonder where it came from. But the INTP will know. It came from years of being misunderstood, years of being underestimated, years of refusing to surrender to conformity. It came from walking a path few had the courage to walk. To be unstoppable is not to be loud. It is not to dominate by force. It is to move through life with such quiet certainty that nothing external can derail you. This is the destiny of the INTP after 30. Not the destiny of power as the world defines it, but the destiny of freedom, the freedom to be entirely themselves, without apology, without fear, without limits. And that is why the INTP, who once appeared fragile, becomes one of the most resilient forces life can produce. Because what grows in silence, lasts. And what lasts, cannot be stopped.